Hey everybody, it's LT, and it's 2 days until Dragon Age the Veilguard drops. Veilguard, sorry. I'm so excited, and I had a little too much coffee today after I passed out and slept for 13 hours after traveling this weekend. I had a lot of thoughts around Bellara Lutare, who she is, who she might be, especially based off of what I've read in magazine articles and interviews where she is mentioned, and a lot of what led me to cosplaying her and ended up being one of the best experiences of this year, if not recent experiences. I'm just so excited to meet her, and I would love to share why and what she means to me so far. I may or may not be wrong about my hot takes on this character, but I think it'll be fun to put out there and just to connect with other people and have this connection over this character who we see ourselves in, or who we are curious about and who we want to know more about. So this is going to be my hot take video on why I am excited to meet Bellara Lutare and Dragon Age the Veilguard. As little spoilers as possible, unless you haven't read the articles or haven't listened to any interviews with the devs about her. So that is my disclaimer. Please use caution moving forward. From here on out, I don't know if there will be anything spoilery. I might be wrong. I could be very wrong. I could be right, and I don't know because I have not played the game. But I have a good feeling about her character based on what I've seen of her so far, how she's been described. I made a list mostly because I have a difficult time staying on topic and I tend to ramble, especially when I get excited about something. So this will be a help for me and a help for all of you, hopefully, to help me stay focused and on track. The first reason why I'm excited and looking forward to meeting Bellara Lutare is that as an artist, as a creator, as a maker, for pretty much my entire life, she has such an unusual and, to me, an appealing character design. Now, art is subjective, and some people could love it, some people could hate it. That's why we have different kinds of music. That's why we have different films, TV shows, video games that people either love or they absolutely hate, or they feel somewhat ambivalent about, or somewhere in between. And that is the beauty of humanity and how different we all are. There is something for everyone, whether we like it or not. And I feel that way about Bellara. I feel like her design is kind of take it or leave it. She's very over the top. There are a lot of things to look at on her, and I feel like there's so much to her than what meets the eye when we first see her. At first, it's like, oh cool, that's an interesting character design, and then you go and you look further, more in depth into what is there, and there's triangles upon triangles upon triangles and more triangles. And her design reminds me of a fractal. And if you know what a fractal is, it is an image that starts out looking very pattern related and somewhat abstract. And it can seem kind of boring to the naked eye, but if you look closer and closer, there's more and more that you notice, the smaller and smaller it gets. And it's incredible how in a fractal, those same patterns can continue repeating throughout. And I think that's a fascinating way to have a character design. It's very scientific. It's very much rooted in how lightning can operate, how coral grows. There is the artistic theory of the golden ratio. And I feel like that's very apparent with Bellara's character design. There's a lot of art theory and scientific theory that goes behind fractals and having repeating patterns within something, but I feel like that is a strong part of why they chose those facets and elements to her character. And to me, as an artist and somebody who loves philosophy and science and tinkering with things, there is a lot to that meets the eye or doesn't. And the implications of that is really cool for her character. I love her gigantic hair, so many secrets. I think a lot of you who know how I built her and how I made her wig was definitely an undertaking. And there is a lot of science that goes into building her character. There is definitely some engineering, and I think that also speaks to her character herself. I love her color scheme. To me, her color scheme is very calming. It feels kind of like the inside of my brain, like muted marigolds and turquoises and dark browns and like that rusty kind of ochre color. All those things together are very appealing to me and very earth toned, very jewel toned. It doesn't surprise me that a lot of the other characters are also very jewel toned in a way too, and I think that's really lovely. It stands out from the very bright colors of the Veil. I'm downloading Veilguard right now, so I can't believe I can't believe it's downloading already. This is exciting. So yeah, her color scheme is also really calming and beautiful and interesting looking to me. I like wearing those colors. And I like that she has all of those elements to her. I think also her Valislin's really pretty. There are some Valislin patterns that don't really speak to me as a designer and artist. But there was something about her Valislin that I found really interesting. And I'm not super up on Dragon Age lore. I know a fair amount, but I'm not an expert, not like how I am with Mass Effect. So because I don't know as much about Dragon Age Valislin and the lore behind that, some of the Valislin didn't really speak to me, especially in Inquisition or other previous games. And I thought hers was beautiful. And I really love the cheek tattoos. They're so sweet. And actually that's also very ancestral for me too, which I will actually be getting to later. That is also much more deeply personal, and I'm a little bit nervous to share about that, but we'll get to that towards the end. It's been mentioned multiple times, especially recently, how neurospicy she is. John Epler, her main writer, mentioned that he was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I also recently got diagnosed with ADHD. I would say recent for me being about 2 years ago. And it's interesting to me because when I was seeing footage of her and when people were describing her, I feel like there is so much overlap when it comes to difficult experiences and people who do their best to make themselves comfortable in an environment when also their mind is going a million miles a minute. There's a part of me that saw a lot of myself in her when I saw footage, and a lot of that was, it's almost like a language that you speak with another person. You know how like you'll just automatically connect with somebody in public and it turns out that you both have very similar life experiences? It's like that. Like calls to like, and sometimes if we aren't deliberately seeking it out, we can get stuck in this mindset, in this bubble that either there was no one else like us, or everyone is like us. So I have to really try hard and make sure that, am I actually seeing this for what it is, or am I just picking out the things that I want to see, that I recognize in this person or this character or this story? But the more I looked at Bellara, and the more I saw aspects of her character, the more I was like, oh, I actually do feel very similar to this character in many ways, and here's why. I mean, in the way that she's been described, in what she does, in the footage that we have seen of her, she does display ADHD traits. She can stutter a little bit. She can seem unsure of herself, and I don't think it's because she is unsure of herself. I think it's because she's constantly wondering and recalibrating, like, wait, is this thing actually correct, or am I wrong? Or is this hypothesis that I have about this thing actually correct, or is there something more to it that I'm not seeing yet? And there's a lot of background thought that goes behind the words that I say, and when other people are speaking to me, I'm constantly taking in data. I'm constantly taking in information and wondering, okay, well, between what this person has said to me but what their body language is telling me, what are they actually saying? Or are these facts actually real, or where is this coming from? You know, does this back up what I've known previously? Is this true? How do I know this is true? How does it feel in my body? And some of that can also have to do with mindfulness. Some of that can also have to do with healing from post-traumatic stress or complex post-traumatic stress, or even just ADHD-like tendencies. And for me, because I'm constantly taking in information, I'm always analyzing and being like, how does this apply to this other thing that I know? Is this actually something that I need to make a judgment call on, or is it actually something that is new and new information that I'm taking in, and how do I process that? Or how can I be neutral about this information that I'm getting? Because maybe it doesn't have to do with me. Maybe it has nothing to do with me at all. Maybe it has nothing to do with anything I've ever known. And it's something new, and I'm learning something new, and how exciting that can be. As you can see, getting a little sneak peek into my brain. I don't know if that's how Bellara's brain works, but I feel like that can be very similar for some people who are on the ADHD spectrum or neurospicy and the like. And also due to my past experiences of having been abused for most of my life. I'm not saying that Bellara has been through something like that, but I can tell that she's definitely had a difficult past. And I think it's also been mentioned in some of the articles that she is trying to reconcile with what has happened, and we don't know what that is. But I also have similar experiences where I've done my best to reconcile what has happened, to be acceptant of the things that were out of my control and what I can do now to make it better. You can also see in some of the footage videos, if you watch them, like she does some stimming. I tend to not rock back and forth, but if I'm standing is so difficult for a lot of people. And so I like to gently sway back and forth. It both helps keep me inside my body, helps me stay present and mindful and calm. And sometimes it's really helpful just to be a comforting movement, or you know, have a way to move my body when it could otherwise be really uncomfortable. And some people may or may not call it stimming. I guess it's called stimming. I never called it that because I felt like that term can be used maybe a little too broadly, but it's been called that to me. And so I guess I'm going to use it here in place of not having another term to call it. If there is a better term to call the gentle swaying of back and forth, please let me know. I'm very curious about it. It is nice to see someone who operates in the world kind of how I am. I know that I'm not alone. I know that I'm not an anomaly. I'm definitely not special, and I'm definitely not unusual. But sometimes I can feel that way. And for a lot of my life growing up, it was very difficult to live with that, knowing that I felt like I was so different, or that I had to hide, or I would be, you know, punished for being a certain way. My experience, of course, is my own, but it was really difficult, and it was really hard to feel like I could be the kind of person that I needed to be to grow up, to be the kind of person I needed to be. And now I can be that person. I can heal that for myself. I can be that person for other people when I recognize it. And I can see people younger than me and say, hey, you're okay. You're not alone. You're gonna be okay. But it took a really long time to get to this point, and a lot of effort. And I wanted to give up so many times. So yeah, I said this was gonna be a really personal talk, didn't I? I hope I don't start crying. We will see. That's all I'm gonna say about that note. I'm excited to see someone who operates similarly in the world to me. So this is where we start getting into a little more deeper, darker territory. And I have difficulty talking about this in public in general. Mostly because in the past it has not been safe for me to share. I still don't feel like it's safe for me to share, but just know going forward, there will be this section and then the next section that will definitely talk about some topics that are difficult to hear and listen to, a lot of it having to do with traumatic past and, you know, violence towards me specifically. But it's not something that we can hide or shy away from in the world. It is something that's very real and very difficult to deal with for many of us on the daily. And I do think it's important to talk about, and I do see it relating to this character, at least from my perspective. Again, I could be wrong, but that's what makes characters interesting and relatable, and that's what makes us want to know more about them or feel compassion towards them and want to help them or be there with them in their struggles and their triumphs. So in sharing that, keep that in mind going forward with me. Thanks. So in past articles about Bellara, it has been mentioned that she's had to deal with a certain level of a traumatic past. Now, we don't know exactly what that is yet, unless you've already played the game. But if you haven't played the game already, like me, and if you've only read the articles and listened to interviews on who Bellara is and what she's like, you can get a sense that something has happened to her in the past that led her down the path that she's on right now. And I can relate to that a lot. I think a lot of us can. Most of us have experienced trauma in some way, shape, or form, whether that's big T trauma or little t trauma. Again, I'm not a professional. Please don't take my word as fact. Please don't diagnose yourself or anything with what it is that I'm saying. This is not the place and the time for that. I'm simply sharing. Thank you for understanding. So when I see the footage of Bellara, or from my understanding of her, I get the sense that she's dealing with difficult times through lightheartedness and hyperfocus and humor. I know that for myself, from everything that I've been through, I understand that life is short. And the fact that I'm still here is pretty much a miracle. It's not without me trying, and it's not without people trying to support me and seeing the things that I've gone through and what I've went through and what I'm still going through. But I can sense that with Bellara too. And again, similar to how if you meet somebody, you kind of just hit it off immediately and you find out later that you both have very similar life experiences. Again, it feels like that with Bellara. I feel like we have similar thoughts on how we handle tragedy and life and generational curses, so to speak. Without getting esoteric here, it is known in science that things can be passed down through generations genetically. That is a fact. And I know from my experiences that many of those things have been passed down to me. And many of our ancestors' experiences also embed themselves in our minds, in our DNA, almost like a protection system, like a built-in programmed protection system. And I feel that way with Bellara because I can see how she's trying so hard to fix things. She's trying so hard to make up for what was done, for what was lost, for the things either she has experienced herself or in the past, trying to right wrongs, trying to make things better. And I think that's so interesting to me because I also feel similarly in many of those ways. Through her attitude and the way she's curious and the way she explores the world. When you go through something in your inner world that's difficult on the daily and you're reminded of that daily, you do your best to just escape and take a break from the heaviness and the weight of it all. And I think anybody who knows me well knows that I am definitely that kind of person. I am a force to be reckoned with. I do not give up. However, I also know when to pick my battles, and I also know when something is worth putting so much energy and effort into. And sometimes I am also led or spurred on to put energy into something whether or not I want to, because it instantly sparks this feeling inside of me that's like, no, this can be better. No, we can be better. I see the potential for this. And I know if I do my best, I can leave this situation or this area better than when I found it. And I think I see a lot of that in Bellara too. She's a fixer. She's a tinkerer. She wants to help figure out how to change the world or her communities and the people that she's involved with for the better. And I could be wrong about that. And also maybe depending on the way you play the game, we'll see. Because again, I don't know, but this is maybe me projecting a lot of my experiences onto Bellara, or I could be right. I don't know. But when you do your best to take a break and escape from reality, and if it's done well, there is a time and a place for that. I feel so much more ready to take the world on head on and know, okay, it's my time for me to be able to do this thing or to share this thing. Do I know when to hold back? Do I know, again, how to pick my battles? And do I know if this is actually something that I can fix or if it just needs to be? And sometimes things just need to be. And not everything can be fixed. And I have to accept that that's the way things are sometimes. And I see that in Bellara too. I'm excited to see more of that aspect of her character, the nuances of her tinkering and fixing side and her acceptance. And radical acceptance is one of the hardest things to do. And waiting and being patient and knowing when is the right time to insert myself or insert a idea or a thought, because not every moment asks for that. And to be really mindful and compassionate and aware that if I say this thing, is this actually going to help or is it going to hurt more, is a big deal. And I wonder if we'll have those moments with Bellara. I'm very curious. Yeah. It's rough. It's hard to share all of this, you guys. This is very vulnerable for me. You know, it's not something that everybody gets to share. And it's not something, at least my experiences, aren't things that a lot of people in my circles have had to go through. But I'm happy to share when I can and how I can in a way that is comfortable for me. Yeah, I feel she's really Indigenous coded. Now, if you know me, you know that I am Indigenous Coptic Egyptian. And Coptic Egyptians are a people group. They're indigenous to North Africa and Egypt and the Levant, who have existed for thousands and thousands of years. Historically, our heritage and religion and language come from the late Pharaonic era of Egypt. History lesson aside, that is my heritage. And I think a lot about stolen artifacts, repatriation, how so many aspects of a culture or a religion or a language have been taken out of context and used for other purposes. Now, I'm not going to talk specifically my experiences on that because this video would be way too long and it's somewhat off topic. But this is how Bellara also seems to feel about a lot of the artifacts and the ruins that she's explored and the things that she's experiencing throughout her life and the way she explores and the way she wants to bring things back to her people. Wondering, historically, how did things get this way? How did this happen? What events and what peoples and what beliefs led us to this point in history? And I personally think about that a lot. There's so much I could say about that. There's a lot in cultures that can be taken out of context. I don't think I need to go down that rabbit hole. I think a lot of us have heard things about it and know, and that's not the point of this video. But I relate deeply to her wanting to reconnect with her heritage in a real and deep and meaningful way, not in a way from the people who have stolen it from her, not from, other people who have taken these artifacts and put them on display out of reach from people like her, and not in a way that takes her out of her own holy places, because, I imagine for the Dalish elves, it's so difficult to see both your people enslaved in many circumstances, and in others being exoticized and viewed in so many extreme ways, whether or not they are true. And I can relate to that a lot as a Coptic Egyptian, and feeling at a disadvantage, not knowing and not having the access that her ancestors had to her cultural traditions and her heritage, and maybe even her language, and understanding, why do we do things the way that we do? Why do we believe the things that we do? How did we get to this point? What am I missing from this puzzle that makes up me? How do I reclaim some of that for myself and for my people? How do I deal with this when so many facets and factions of my peoples are so different from each other, and they all believe different things about how history happened, how things got to be the way that they were, and people are so different from each other. And being able to reconcile with all of that is a heavy burden to bear. We've read about Bellara in some of the articles that she feels sad and responsible for what's happening to not only just her people, but for her old gods coming back and striking down innocent people who have nothing to do with what's been happening. And also still wanting to reclaim what has happened and what's going on. And it's not a source of pride for her. It seems like she recognizes that this is a bad thing. She is not happy that her gods have come back and are hurting people in the world that she lives in. And I can relate to that a lot too. If my old gods came back and were like hurting my friends and threatening to destroy the world, I would be pretty upset too. I would not feel good about that at all. She has a conscience in that way. She has a responsibility to her community and the places where she is in. And I find that really inspiring and really relatable. People are complicated, and I feel like she recognizes that in a lot of the interactions that she has and figuring out her place in the world. Last but not least, she is an explorer of places and things, and possibly people too. I think that's interesting. She is very curious as a character. You can tell by the way she interacts with the world around her, the items that she finds, the way she takes it apart, builds it, destroys it, puts it back together again, or makes something entirely new out of the things that she finds. I wonder if that's how she comes to understand the world and looks for answers in the way that she does. I think she's the kind of person who looks on how to make things better, how to improve things, but I imagine that can also annoy and irritate some people too. Sometimes things can't be fixable, and I wonder if that will come out in her character a lot. A lot of us have a desire to want to fix things and to make them better, and that can be both a blessing and a curse, as some of us know. I'm looking forward to seeing the way she interacts with people, how she will do her best to help them, how maybe she won't help them, how dedicated to her cause or her reasons will she be in story circumstances or with other characters. What will she be like if you choose something totally different than what she feels so strongly in? It does seem, and from what we read, it does seem that she's very dedicated to who she is and what she wants and how she sees the world. But she also strikes me as somebody who is deeply compassionate and knows that not everything can go the way she wants them to. I hope. Again, I could be wrong. We'll see. But I'm so interested to see the world through her eyes, to see Thetis and the people within it and the situations that happen through her lens and her experiences. A lot of how we go about through life is through our own lens and experiences. And not all of us see things the same way. And so I'm very curious to see how she views things differently compared to Nev or Varric or even Solus. I do feel like she and Solus are two sides of the same coin in many ways. They have many overlapping needs and wants, but both go about it very differently. And I'm so curious to see how that plays out. Her curiosity is also something that might fuel me personally. I think to experience the world with a childlike wonder, not even necessarily childlike, but just the wonder and awe of possibilities and wondering, what is the potential of something? How can we make this better, more efficient, faster, or slower? How can we make this thing and bend it to my will, or bend it to how I want it to be? And recognizing when I'm able to do that and when that's just not possible, but being creative within those limitations. That is a lot of what art and science can be. And I'm so excited to see that through Bellara. She's definitely a STEAM girly. STEAM girlies for life. I think that's why I love her so much so far. She definitely seems like a STEAM kind of person. If you don't know what STEAM is, that's science, technology, electronics, arts, mechanics, or is the E for engineering? It might be engineering. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. The thing will be below. The acronym description will be below. Yeah, she's a STEAM girly, and I love seeing a woman in STEAM. Also, it's really important to have the arts. Yeah, I'm excited to see her wonder for the world. I'm excited to experience her discoveries about her past and her own lineage and her place in it. I am excited to see part of my story unfold through her story. And I'm looking forward to getting to know this mysterious but really cool character. And I can't wait to see all of them interacting together. I can't wait to make the Veilguard my family in a way. And I have a feeling this game might change me. So with that being said, thank you for listening to my reasons why I'm excited to meet Bellara. And let me know if any of the things that I mentioned resonated with you. I know all of us have different experiences, but a lot of us also have experienced similar things. And while they may not be the same, know you're not alone. And keep trying. Keep searching for answers. Keep searching for a better way for yourself. And don't give up. Thank you for being here. Curious to hear your own experiences and thoughts of what you think of Bellara. Please no spoilers in the comments. I have not played the game yet. I may turn comments off depending on how the discussion goes. So please just know, play nice. If you don't play nice, you're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like it one bit. Just a warning. Anyway, thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the other side of the veil. Bye.